I'd like to share with you something very valuable about making the most of your time. Something that opens doors and opportunities while unlocks the things that you want to accomplish so that you actually create the outcomes you desire. Imagine your life as designed. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. If you want to achieve more, be more, receive more, and reach the outcomes you desire, it actually is a very simple 3-step process. And we see this 3-step process in philosophy, we see this in religion, and we see this in how people thought hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, we don't know hundreds of thousands of years ago exactly what people thought, but if you look through history 10,000 years ago, Socrates and all the wise philosophers used this same method. But I would imagine that even humans in caves could manifest what they desire using these 3 simple steps. Now, I don't mind sharing these 3 simple steps with you, and I will tell you that I apply these 3 steps in my own life, and they work. However, there's some caveats. First off, it's a mistake to believe that if the steps are so easy to understand, that everyone does these 3 steps. And if they do these 3 steps, magically things will happen. Well, magically things do happen for the individual, but when you look at this situation in hindsight, the achievement doesn't seem that powerful, or maybe you attribute it to outside events, not because you don't know or do these 3 key steps, but because you didn't really drive these steps hard enough in a direction. I don't know, maybe you had doubt, maybe you had some fears, but you tried the 3 steps, you had a success, but it was kind of a meh moment. Another mistake people make is that when they hear these 3 steps, they say, well, I already knew that. Well, there's a lot of things that you know. In fact, many operate on genius level intelligence compared, of course, to a caveman or somebody 10,000 years ago. For example, you might be able to explain at a high level nuclear fusion. You could explain how they make electricity out of nuclear energy. Maybe that's hard, I don't know, but you could explain how hydraulics work. The basics of hydraulics, the basics of algebra. Well, the average citizen 100 years ago, all those things are just unknown to them. 200 years ago, you're a genius. So maybe you're a genius behind his time or her time. I don't know, but here's the point. Let me just give you the 3 key points, because this is a podcast and we can talk about the 3 points and then we can show you some application. First off, ask and ye shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. We've all heard that before, especially in a Judeo-Christian society or Muslim or Islamic society. These are Abrahamic type of sayings. The ask, the ask, the ask. If you ask, most likely you'll get an answer. Now, you won't always get an answer that you like, but if you don't ask for something, how can you receive it? Now, I'm not necessarily talking about asking a divine God. I'm not asking you to say, Yahweh, I ask you for my success and well-being. I'm sharing that you must ask at least yourself, are you willing to go forward? Are you interested in something else? Have you ever asked yourself a question about, is this it? Have I made it? Ask. Now, what do you ask? Number 2, you ask for something specific. You have a goal or an outcome clearly defined. To see it in your mind is to achieve it. See, philosophers could describe something so realistic in someone's mind that they would believe that angels come from heaven and lift them up. Now, I'm not playing fun on any of these things. Some philosophers had imagined fantastic stories that we know are stories and are meant to entertain. Others created divine gods, many perspectives of one universal God or deities for their individual purposes. I'm not saying that you make up who you want to be or who you are today. See, that's a problem with social media. Folks go onto social media and they present their best self. And then when you meet them in real life, they're nothing like what they were on the video. Now, to be fair, if you took your entire life existence and you separated out the very best of your life and played that story, you would be just proud of yourself and encouraged and strengthened by what you saw. But if you took all the worst points in your life and looked at them, you would feel miserable and horrible. We don't want others to feel miserable and horrible, so we share the most valuable part of ourselves. Now, I would argue that this is a distraction because number 3 is to take specific and decisive action. So you've asked yourself, are you willing, maybe are you able to move forward on your goals and objectives that number 2, you clearly defined, and number 3, now you're taking action. Well, you can see how this gets messed up. The first thing is that dream and that asking yourself, is it possible for me to be financially secure, financially stable, to be respected in my community, to be someone who has influence and power? Number 2 is, what would power look like? Is it a high-paying position that, your mom's like, hey, my son's a doctor? Or your neighbors wonder what it is that you do. It's such a mystery, but it's so exciting, and every day it's something different. See, it's as individual as you are. But if you don't ask it and you don't look at the questions and the answers and to think, and you allow the world of distraction to keep you so busy that you don't move forward. Now, see, there's an enemy out there that knows these 3 steps. They know that you ask the question, ask for what you want, clearly define what you want, and then take action to go get it. And they don't want you to compete with them. Why would you want competition? I wouldn't invite competition in if I didn't have it, if I didn't want it. Ultimately, what happens is this enemy distracts you. This enemy confuses you. This enemy tries to put their power upon you. This enemy gets you excited about things that don't matter. This enemy tries to scare you. So do you see what happens? It's very easy to understand the 3 very simple steps that take you from where you are today to where you want to be. But there are so many obstacles along the way. Now, for me, I found prayer and meditation. I found mentorship. I found counseling or coaching or investing in the knowledge necessary to understand what's the right next step. See, in a modern society, you know so much more than people in historical times, yet you make thousands and thousands of more choices each day. See, the caveman could decide, can I eat? I'm hungry. What can I eat? Goes out and looks at the different creatures and says, well, this creature's too big, this creature's too small. I want to eat something that's manageable. And then they go out and hunt. See, they didn't have a lot of distractions. They didn't have their phones beeping at them every 20 minutes. They didn't have alarms and calendars and email and all these distractions that we've layered on top of society in order to achieve and to apply these 3 key factors. And what happens, listen carefully, what happens is in a modern society is that we have more distractions drawing away for our energy rather than connections and relationships, friends and family, a good health, and our physical well-being, so that we can have clarity of focus. Do you get enough hours of sleep every night? Do you wake up refreshed and ready to challenge the day? If someone were to ask you, what is it that you want to achieve in life? Would you have an answer? If they asked you, what was it you'd like to achieve this week to take you closer to your goals, your dreams and desires? Would you have an answer? If I asked you to draw a picture or to clip out of a magazine the life that you want, what would it look like? What would the experiences be? Not just the fancy damn car, not the vacations. You can take the vacations, by the way. There are a lot of professionals out there, high-income professionals, who take vacations every year, $6,000, $7,000, $12,000 vacations, and they suffer for them. Sure, they've got the experience and they've got the bragging rights at work. Don't get me wrong. They love to come in and show those pictures, but they're struggling with debt. They're struggling with worry, fears, and concerns. They're worried that if something doesn't happen in business to elevate their position, they're going to continue to fall behind. They don't know about things about the cost of living changes between locations. They don't understand that their salary every year is impacted by inflation. And they don't understand that some of the shortcuts they took to get political advantage actually puts them behind better opportunities. Let me recap these three elements. The first one is to ask. Ask for what you want. Now, okay, you might be embarrassed. Ask yourself first. I really encourage you to use a journal and to write down these asks. Right at the top of the page, how can I achieve $250,000 a year base income plus 25% in total compensation? Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, I'll only make $100,000. That'd be a 150% increase. That's unrealistic. Is it unrealistic? What if there's something that you know how to do that if put in front of the right people could solve million-dollar problems? What if your workplace has a problem that you just didn't know about because you never asked? So, for example, you could ask, what's the biggest problem here that if solved would make all the difference in our business? Now, somebody's going to tell you, oh, I don't know. So you got to ask somebody different. See, sometimes it's the same question, different person. Sometimes it's a different person, different question. So, you are the same person, and now you're going to ask yourself a different question. Go beyond ask. Now, we have a program about asking. Asking is the way to unlock opportunity in marketplaces. It's the way to move forward when you're stuck. It's the way to get the answers that are necessary to take you to the next step. Number two, clearly define. See the vision of your future in your mind, but don't leave it there. Use a journal again. Describe what life might be like. Now, there's a certain amount of balance here. Remember, the 3 steps are very easy, but the implementation can be difficult because we have a lot of distractions. People make mistakes. And ultimately, folks limit themselves. So if we want to remove those limits, the first thing might be is that you are without limits. Well, what would that look like? Again, that question comes in. What would that look like? Well, maybe it is standing in front of an audience and speaking confidently about a topic in which you have expertise. Imagine that. Standing in front of an audience, speaking confidently about a topic in which you have expertise. Now, how easy would that be? Because you've already got the expertise. Now we just have to find a way. Number 3, massive action. Find a way to put you in a position where you can learn to speak in front of an audience. There's an organization called Toastmasters International that'll give you exciting and useful ways of learning how to speak in public. Now all you have to do is show up. Now, what if that's not available to you? Well, today you can do podcasts, you can do videos, you can put something on social media that's useful. Now, I'm recommending you get rid of social media. There's a lot of factors beyond when we talk about identity theft and other things, but there's a lot of factors beyond just the distraction that those platforms provide. But you could be easily distracted by educational videos. How often have you invested in the next program, the next book, and never read it or used it? So again, there's a dichotomy, a shift, a conflicting array of challenges that keep you from implementing the 3 simple steps that help you achieve and create outcomes. And yes, to be fair, I could go days on each of those 3 topics, like outcome management, for example. The step 2, defining the outcome that you desire and making it real, that's a game changer in how you apply and use your time. That's where we started, time management. If you know clearly what it is that you want, you can ask the question, is what I'm doing right now moving me towards my goals and objectives? Let's see how powerful that is? And I know you weren't meaning to listen to this podcast. I do have a few loyal listeners, but you probably stumbled across this podcast, and now you've got the 3 steps, And now what's happened finally? You now have responsibility to do step 3, which is to take the action. Sure, you might want to listen to this program again. You may come up with questions. I'm telling you, questions are powerful. And so if you want to ask questions about what we've described today, I do have available resources that'll help you go to the next level. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, you just pitched me on this got me all excited. You told me about the problems if I'm not doing what I need, and now you're pitching me on a program. But listen, folks, it would be unfair to you to introduce you to these 3 key factors and not give you the tools to take you to the next level. But I'm not saying you have to buy anything. In fact, I'm offering you that if you want to take step number 1, which is to ask a question, I'd be more than happy to reply in a podcast or a video or even write you a letter sharing the insights that I've learned over nearly 3 decades, really making mistakes and running businesses and sometimes running them into the ground, achieving goals. I've earned more in the last 9 years than some people, the average person, makes in a lifetime. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying to show you that sometimes your goals need to be really big. And then you ask the question, well, what can I do now to get towards this goal? What is this goal? What does it look like? And often, what do I need to do now? And actually taking that action. So I'm saying that if you have questions about what I've shared here, take the action by visiting www.insidestrategicrelations.com. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we help high-income professionals transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. And I just shared with you one of the massive profits that comes from business relationships. It's that asking. Ask of others. Ask of yourself. Ask of your future self. Ask of your past self. I'll just give you a little example. By the way, you can ask your past self to leave you the hell alone and let you move on from the frustrations and stresses you've had in the past. And then you say, well, all I've known is stresses. Well, what would the future look like if I was allowed myself to move forward? And then you take that one action that opens the door that you can say, whoa, I'm in a different place now. I'm moving forward now. I'm creating the results that I've always desired now. And this 1, 2, 3, you move from where you are to where you want to be. And I want to hear about your journey. I want to thank you for listening. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. You can send your questions, comments, share a testimonial about your application. And if it's hard, let me know what was hard about it, and I'll be happy to do what I can to help you get to the next level. You ask your questions at www.insidestrategicrelations.com, where we help high-income professionals transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. And this has been about the 3 steps to get you to where you want to go. Thanks for listening.